that again.
Right.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the next video in my series of creating great places to work. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Hamilton. He is the Operations Director at Healthcare RM and is also a GB skier and GB triathlete. So welcome, Adam.
Morning.
Thank you for joining me today, and I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I basically started my career, if you were, I used to ski for GB downhill, so I was in the Alpine team, and then used to compete for GB as an age group athlete for triathlon as well, doing long distance. Got myself injured in my ski career, so I had to retire. That then led me to get into rehabilitation, and then started working my way through. I was involved in occupational health back in the early days, so looking around 2008, 2009. And then from there, I started to develop health and wellbeing programs for the organization I work for now, Healthcare RM, and was really trying to look at, what if we focus on health and wellbeing rather than just sickness absence. So back in about 2010, I set up the health and wellbeing department. And then 2015, I set up the functional health department for the business. And my whole kind of remit really is, and kind of philosophy on it has been, look at people holistically. And I've taken my experiences from sport. I still compete in sports to this day, but doing ultra endurance events for my sins, and just trying to look at how, we have to look at the sum of all parts really. And now my job in operations and overseeing all of the operations is trying to make sure that we deliver the best service possible to our clients and getting really good outcomes, good customer service, looking at, high levels of quality and stuff. And we're trying to integrate everything as one. So we're always trying to give our clients an integrated healthcare approach. And then when we're assessing people and dealing with people when they've gone off sick, as being proactive as well as reactive, and then applying health and wellbeing programs that are more preventative as well, because obviously prevention is better than a cure. So it's kind of where I'm at, using previous experience in sport to then help kind of pave the way to change things in the future for healthcare.
That's a really interesting perspective to come from, and not many people in business will have that background. So I think you've obviously got a lot of interesting stories that you can share with us. But I wonder if you could tell me what you think makes a great place to work.
Yeah, sure. I think for me personally, for myself, I want to work in an organization where work is enjoyable and there's a sense of satisfaction of I'm achieving something, and I'm doing something for the greater good. I'm actually making a difference, and that's Healthcare's strapline really, is truly making a difference. So for me, that's what I think makes a good workplace. Is do you know your reason why? Which I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and why are you going to work? What's your purpose? What are you trying to achieve? What's your legacy going to be? What ultimately is the big goal? And for me, I think that's the real kind of root of what makes a great place to work, is having a sense of purpose and a drive and a reason why. Because I think you can do all of the other stuff. You can put layers on top. You can offer people, literally the world of things. You can have, the best restaurants ever at your workplace. You can have exercise classes, gyms. You can have all of this. But if people don't know why they're at work and what their purpose is and what they're getting out of it, and they don't get that sense of satisfaction, then all of that is just a nothingness to people really. So for me, it's helping people understand what are they part of, and then recruiting in people with a similar vision, so that you're trying to all build and work towards the same end goal, and you create a business family really, and you make an almost a tribe of people that work together and collectively work as one. So you achieve that kind of dynamic within the workplace, rather than it being siloed and people going, off on tangents and doing things differently, which ultimately I think leads to cultural kind of problems. It's trying to build that dynamic and that culture that we can all work as one towards one vision.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I totally agree with you on that actually. embedding those values in your business and living those values, not just paying lip service to them, and making sure everybody gets them, is one of the things that I think makes the difference between a successful business and a very, very successful business. I mean, do you have any sort of hints and tips or experiences that you'd be able to share with us on how you help new employees sort of get the business culture and get those values?
Yeah. So, I mean, for us as a business, and when we're working with clients as well, I'm a big believer and a big advocate of, don't practice what you preach what you practice. So flip it on its head and actually come from a degree of authenticity of, so we've had new starters that have started recently, our business, and after day one they've said, because I have an open door policy that I welcome anyone to come and speak to me, and if any problems, any issues, just come and speak to me. And they've said after day one, they can feel the atmosphere, they can feel the culture, the positive energy, how welcoming people are, the kind of the great values and the culture and that. And so for us, I think you've got to live and breathe it. You've got to genuinely want it. And again, it goes back to why. Why do you want that culture? Why do you want things to be that way? Because if you don't know why, then you're not going to be emotionally invested in it. And that's the thing. I mean, back in the early days when I used to do personal training and was running my own fitness company, whenever I was dealing with new clients, I'd always ask them why. Why do you want to get to this goal? So I'd have that emotional investment. And that's the same that I'd say for any new client or any new employee that starts in a business, is what's the culture and why should they invest their time, their energy? Because realistically, it's where they're going to spend most of their life. If you're at work 5 days a week, let's just say we're just using Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, that's a lot of your time and energy. So you better make sure you're invested in it emotionally, mentally, not just physically, so that then you're going to get something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in my experience, those businesses that have hired the right people and had them doing the right role, they're the ones that thrive. The ones that really align their vision, their values, their culture, they're the businesses that really succeed. And the people within it are able to flourish and succeed. And it's so empowering to see these businesses that are just, they're getting it right. And I get so frustrated when I see businesses not paying attention to this stuff, thinking that it's soft and it's fluffy and it's not important. And I deal in my day job obviously with picking up the pieces when things go wrong, and it's just so frustrating. There are ways in which all of these things can be avoided if things are done a little bit differently, and you start from a slightly different perspective. And that's something else I'm sure we'll end up talking about in due course, about sort of like leadership and command and control and servant leadership and all the different models there. I mean, how do you think people can keep their employees keen and motivated?
So it's a good question. I think for me, when looking at how do you keep anyone motivated about anything, is trying to set good goals, is to have that employee satisfaction, that recognition, which again is not just that's anything in life. Human beings need recognition. They need to know that they're doing a good job. They need to know that they've got a sense of purpose, that it's working towards something, that there's a rewards behind it as well, whether that's just a simple thank you or well done. It doesn't have to be monetary. But I think people need steps and goals. They need to know where the end point is, what they're working towards, to keep the motivation and the drive. And something that I've picked up along the way in the years is that if you set smaller goals that are achievable, that people can hit them, it keeps them motivated, rather than setting some big lofty goal that you then miss it and then people go, lose their motivation, which is kind of more of a coaching approach to things as well, that it's helping people understand, well, okay, if it's trying to get a team to work together better, and that the end goal is this over here, this is what the dream is, this is make things happen, wave the magic wand, is let's just reverse engineer it and go really small steps towards that, and just try and get those, as Team Sky said, those 1% improvements. It's just a really small incremental, and from personal experience and working with people, that seems to be the best way to keep people motivated and driven, is just to be 1% better, not 10%, not 20%, it's just 1%. And I think we're in a society and culturally, globally, where everybody wants a quick fix and they want it now, and they want to go from 0 to 100 yesterday, rather than go, well, how about just one step? We've got all of these age-old kind of sayings, haven't we? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and how do you eat an elephant, and all of this sort of stuff. And we've almost forgotten that it's been there, written in time, as this is some really good sage advice as to how to do things. Just, little and often, small incremental changes, little bite-sized chunks. Don't try and run before you can walk, and all of these sort of things. And that, to me, is where I've seen the biggest positive change, because you're trying to make a lifestyle change. You're trying to make a long-term change, not a quick fix.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. And you won't be able to see it, but I've actually got stuck on my wall in front of me a picture of 2 ladders, and one, the rungs are really close together and the person's virtually at the top, and the other ladder, the rungs are very far apart and the person at the bottom is still trying to grab hold of that first rung. And that's there to remind me of exactly that, the small, consistent steps make a difference. And I think you're right, we've forgotten all of this. As you say, those sayings have been there for years, and we're all so busy. Whether we're busy doing the right things is another conversation, but we're all so busy and we all want everything immediately. And actually, you can achieve so much more by taking those small steps. So I think that's a really good reminder, actually, for all of us, and for business leaders to make those goals and targets achievable, because there's nothing so demoralizing as almost hitting something, or actually hitting it, but then the following year it's just increased and increased and increased, and then you can't hit it, and one thinks, what's the point? And I think it's actually a really good reminder for business leaders to sort of think about what they really need, and to set achievable targets and goals. And obviously you do a lot with sort of general well-being. What do you think businesses should focus on when they're looking at making sure their employees are well?
I think the first thing that businesses should remember is that human beings are human beings, and we have been for quite some time. There's no plans that I'm aware of to evolve anytime soon. So the simple things of, movement or activity on a daily basis, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, quality sleep, not quantity, and eating a balanced variety of foods are the fundamentals of living. They are the basics that we need to remind people, and repetition of keeping it going. There is no quick fix. There's no silver bullets to this sort of stuff, and all of the fads will come and go. And there will always be something new that people try to sell, and there's this, and there's an innovation. And don't get me wrong, technology is great, but we will always need to drink water. We will always need to eat balanced variety of foods. We will always need sleep, and we will always need to move our bodies. And if businesses can focus on getting their employees and trying to teach that to people and reinforce the message, then that will help so much. Because I see so often in industry and just in the news and the media, and I'm reading and seeing what's happened, it changes every single day, every week. There's a new message that confuses people. Oh, follow this diet, do this routine, or this exercise is good for you, or this exercise is bad for you, don't do this, do that, which becomes confusing. And we forget, well, hang on a second. I mean, I always joke whenever I've done any presentations and spoken to people and said, I don't see the Masai Mara out there signing up to gym memberships and trying to do spin classes or HIIT programs and stuff like that, and all of these different weird diets and variety. And okay, yeah, there's layers to that and why that happens, why it doesn't. But when you strip back all of modern technology, we're still humans, and we still need those basic needs. And if we remember that first and foremost, that will help massively, because that's where I see, when I look into what's happening in the media and I see what some organizations struggle with, is they try and chase silver bullets. try and find this panacea. How do we make people well? Is it, or we'll sign everyone up to mindfulness, or we will do this, we'll do that. They're all great things that's done with the right intent, but then it's, well, what's the point in doing that if you've got all of your employees that have got poor sleep and they're not taking any exercise or activity, and that's contributing to their mental health, and they're eating all the wrong foods. And there's so many other things that you go, okay, let's start with that and go, as an organization, what could we do? We could look at what we have in our restaurants, in our canteen. We could have, better workstations. We could have sit-stand desks. We could encourage people to walk more throughout the day, take walking meetings. We could, provide education on better sleeping and avoiding screens and all of this sort of stuff that will contribute and layer up towards well-being. So again, it goes back to the beginning, doesn't it? What we're saying is embody it as part of the culture and encourage that, and that will help massively, rather than having to seek out a set product or something. And products and tools and technology can be used to leverage things and make life better, and particularly when we are all so busy, as you can use it, but you've got to get the fundamentals first. You've got to get those basics, that foundation to build off, because otherwise you start putting all of this other stuff on top and then wonder why it doesn't work. And you go, well, it's because we haven't got the basics. We need the basics first before we can do anything else.
That's really interesting and completely right. And I think, like you say, the wellbeing industry or wellness at work has boomed over recent years. And particularly because of the pandemic as well, businesses are paying a lot more attention to this. But get the basics right. Really think about what you want to achieve and focus on that, rather than, as you say, the next new thing, the next fad, the next silver bullet. And from my experience, one of the things that I think businesses can really focus on is working hours. And that again comes from the top. You need to have the senior leadership team and your line managers all following the same rules on this, because at the moment we're all working, most of us are working at home, and the lines between home and work have really become blurred, and it might suit some people to work in the evening because of other commitments they might have for children or other caring responsibilities, but we need to make sure that employees are very clear that we don't always expect a response at that time, and manage that properly so people can have some proper rest time and hopefully have good sleep as well. But actually, to switch off from work, that's a real issue that's facing us. I think is the difficulty between home and work and the hours everybody's working. So I think that's going to be something that employers should really focus on as well, not just because they have obligations to do so on health and safety legislation, working time regulations, all of those things, but actually because it's the right thing to do. People need to switch off. It's so damaging to their health, physical and mental, if they don't get those proper breaks.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well that it only applies to a certain sector of people, because it only applies to people that really operate and work from a computer and have to respond to emails and, and doing that sort of thing. Because if you work in a hotel, for instance, once you finish your shift and you've left the hotel, you've left work, and the same as if you're in construction and those sort of things. Obviously, managers and site managers who are in construction will have emails and be responding to stuff, but there is a lot of industries where it kind of proves the proof of concept, doesn't it, that it does work, that you can work a set number of hours and you can go home and you can leave work behind, and things still happen and it falls into place nicely. And it is trying to encourage those healthy behaviors and habits and stuff for people, because what you tend to find is you get creepage. What starts with one email or half an hour extra becomes an hour, which then becomes, I just check my email now, which then becomes, I check it on the weekend. It's then, I wake up early in the morning. And if you're waking up early in the morning, it's usually an indication that you've got stuff on your mind, that you're ruminating about things, because there's certain hours through your sleep cycle where, if you're waking up middle of the night between 2 and 4 a.m., you're worrying about things. So you then go, well, hang on a second, rather than go, I'm going to check my email because that makes me feel better, is I'm going to address the root cause of why I'm worrying about this sort of stuff in the first place, which again comes back to getting those boundaries and the balance. But you're absolutely right. I think when it comes to working, And there's definitely boundaries that need to be drawn, and the example has to be set from the top down, and and everybody needs to be willing to engage in that and work together, and set expectations that, and now and again we may have to work extra hours because there's the needs and demands of the business. That's fine. That's absolutely cool with me. I personally try and make sure that I leave work on time, that I work set hours to kind of give that that kind of expectation and that direction to the others who report into me and the rest of the business, that I'm not there all hours working, from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. There are occasions where I have to do that because work demands, meet it. But then I make sure that my weekends are really spent, relaxing and stuff, and I have that time to switch off. And again, if I see my guys in work and they're working late, is I'll go, and if I'm at the office, because we're in limited capacity at the moment in our offices, is I'll speak to them and say, oh, you're here late, you need to go home. Oh, just one more thing, 5 more minutes. I'm like, no, come on, you were here at 8 o'clock this morning, it's now 6 o'clock at night, you need to go home. To try and help keep that balanced, so that they know as well that it's coming from a director's point of view. I don't want you here late. I don't want you working all these late hours. For me, it's about being efficient. It's quality over quantity. And I think that's where we have to keep driving. And that goes back to the 1%. Sky team, sports, wherever you want to take it, Formula One, so many different analogies and ways that you can kind of cut it. But it's got to be about quality work that we're doing and efficiency that we're driving and being more productive. Not just being present, is being productive. Because I could easily get to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, or start work at 6 o'clock in the morning and log off at 10 o'clock at night. But how productive would I be versus being really efficient and focusing my time and my energy?
I totally agree with you there. And I want to thank you for sharing your insights with me. I think our listeners or watchers will have so much to learn from this. So I'm really grateful. Thank you very much. I have one final question for you. It's the question that I ask everybody that I meet with. And that is, what is the best book that you've read this year?
Best book I've read this year is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, who is an ex-Navy SEAL. And he's the only person, I believe, in American military history to have gone through all variations of their special forces training. So he was in their Air Force and got trained up in, he went through his specialist training that. He was also in the Army and he went through Ranger School, and then he went into the Navy and became a Navy SEAL. He's now an ultra endurance athlete and quite a motivational speaker. He's not everyone's cup of tea. He's a bit like Marmite in the sense of he's very direct. He doesn't hold back. He's very hard hitting with his words, and it probably will upset some people because he's not into fluff. He's had a certain life experience that he's gone through, but I find him fascinating to watch, listen to, and his book it's a good one to read or listen to if you want to listen to it on audiobooks and stuff as well. But yeah, it's a very, very good book that kind of makes you look at things, and it almost in a way helps you become more resilient, because it teaches you about he's had a very, very tough life and then gone through some very tough specialist training in the forces, and he has literally just become this absolute machine of a person, and very, very tough. But I think some of the stuff he says, people can take small pieces away and go, I could apply that. So yeah, his book Can't Hurt Me was really, really good to read.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I will definitely add it onto my reading list, which is growing by the day. And we never seem to have enough hours in the day to get through it all, but I'll definitely add it to my list. So thank you so much. And thanks again for speaking with me. I'm sure everyone's going to really enjoy listening to what you had to say.
No worries, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.